Hello, good morning. Welcome to another exciting time to talk about business. It is Business 360 and my name is Blyden Uken. In Business 360 this morning, we'll look at some of the key features around the world of business, a part of it being the different markets, economic standings around the world, and we begin the conversation with what is happening in China. Chinese authorities have unveiled their most significant steps yet to address the crisis that has been dragging on. Looking at the country's property sector, the property sector in recent years have struggled in China. The new measures include cutting the amount home buyers need for a deposit and encouraging local authorities to purchase unsold properties. The announcement came on the same day as official figures showed the steepest drop in home prices in almost a decade, in a sign the crisis is deepening. Problems in China's property market are having a major impact on the world's second largest economy, as the industry had been a key driver of growth until recently. Still under foreign scene, foreign oil companies in Venezuela are concerned they won't get licenses from the US in time to allow them to operate after May 31st. Oil firms that want to stay in Venezuela are flooding the US Treasury Office, the Office of Foreign Assets Control, with applications for permits after Washington reimposed sanctions last month, leaving officials struggling to clear the backlog. Each individual's projects require a case-specific license, which is complicating the process, according to 3 people with the knowledge of the matter. The delay might put some companies at risk of either breaching US restrictions or becoming unable to comply with contracts signed with the Venezuelan government. In Africa, the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, and Zambia recently inked a border deal allowing for more free-flowing trade. Both countries agreed to allow trade to percolate in the region more seemingly, and the direction that comes with it. Also, you're looking at businesses and the direction that comes from an African point of view. Here, we'll go on a quick break, and when we're back, Business 360 continues. Welcome back, it's Business 360. My name is Blyden Uken. And now let's continue the conversation with the Democratic Republic of Congo there and Zambia recently inking a border deal allowing for more free-flowing trade. Both countries agreed to allow trade to percolate in the region more seemingly, particularly with a focus on the Kasumbalesa border, border, which intersects them. The agreement is under the Southern African Development Community, SADC. The Kasumbalesa border is the second busiest land border in the SADC region. Meanwhile, fintech giant Flutterwave experienced another security breach which allowed unknown individuals to divert 11 billion naira to various bank accounts. The breach occurred a month after a court order was secured to recover $24 million lost due to unauthorized POS transactions. Flutterwave has a history of security breaches with previous incidents involving the transfer of large sums of money. Many concerns for Flutterwave and the customers. In Nigeria, Dangote Petroleum Refinery, built by Africa's richest man, has expressed interest in buying 2 million barrels a month of West Texas Intermediate mainland crude for 12 months starting in July from the United States of America. The tender for overseas oil from a refinery located in Africa's largest producer nation shows the influence the plants will wield in global crude and fuel trading. The tender closes at 2 p.m. on May 21st. The tender shows how Nigerian crudes are struggling to compete against American supply, one trader of West African barrels said. Dangote Refinery was recently ranked above Europe's 10 largest refining facilities. The $20.5 billion facility has a processing capacity of 650,000 barrels per day. For decades, Nigeria has been plagued by oil theft and pipeline vandalism, which have hampered the country's ability to meet the daily processing supply quota of a Dangote refinery, its first private indigenous refinery, despite being one of Africa's leading crude oil producers. Reportedly, Nigeria loses about 400,000 barrels per day to oil theft. Many concerns in the country. Meanwhile, the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Abubakar Bagudu, has said President Bola Tinubu's economic reforms have started bearing fruits. He told newsmen today in Abuja that the measures had restored faith in the country's economy. A statement by Bola Adebiyi, his special assistant on media, quoted the minister as saying that foreign investors had renewed interest in Nigeria. According to Bagudu, both objectives of the reforms have been achieved as the federal, state and local government have acquired more capacity to support the economy. Still in Nigeria, the federal government has been told to release the details of 100 billion naira 2024 zonal intervention project budget. Head of Tracker, Oyomide Ladipo, met this demand in a statement today. In January 2024, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu signed the 28.7 trillion naira 2024 budget into law. However, months later, the details of the 100 billion naira ZIP budget have yet to be released by the Nigerian government's budget office, and many questions are being asked. Meanwhile, the Nigerian government had said the country's 20 trillion naira pension fund is safe and secure. The Minister of Finance, Wala Edun, discloses in a statement. After last Tuesday's Federal Executive Council meeting, Edun said the government would unveil a plan to harness local funds to finance infrastructure developments. His statement was condemned by the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress, which urged the federal government to refrain from tampering with the pension fund. In a joint statement by NLC, the NLC President Joe Ajaro and TUC Deputy President Tommy Okun, the organized labor told the government that Nigerian workers have entrusted their hard-earned savings for retirement security, not as a means for government projects. Meanwhile, petroleum workers under the auspices of the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers and the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria have called for the withdrawal of the newly imposed landing charges on helicopter operators. In a joint statement on Thursday by NOPEN's General Secretary Afolabi Olawale and Pegasen's General Secretary Lumumba Okumbwawa, they condemned the Federal Ministry of Aviation's imposition of exorbitant fees on helicopter operators during this period of economic hardship for businesses and citizens. The petroleum workers said it was very insensitive at a time when the federal government was shopping for investors in the oil and gas industry and meeting various incentives to make the industry attractive. Meanwhile, the Federation Account Allocation Committee, FAAC, shared 1.149 trillion naira in revenue with the federal, state and local government in April 2024. The Director of Press and Public Relations under the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, Bawa Mokwa, disclosed this in a communique on Thursday after May's FAAC meeting. The revenue was divided into distributable statutory revenue of 284.716 billion naira, distributable value-added tax (VAT) revenue of 446.457 billion naira, electronic money transfer levy revenue of 18.024 billion naira, and exchange difference revenue of 438.884 billion naira. On the 284.716 billion naira distributable statutory revenue, the communique stated that the federal government received 112.148 billion naira, the state government received 58.883 billion naira, and the local government councils received 43.855 billion naira. The sum of 71.83 billion naira, 13% of mineral revenue, was shared with the benefiting states. And talking about derivation revenue, it would be a good time to look at African countries with the most expensive internet shutdown in 2024. This year, the frequency and intensity of internet shutdowns have surged, coinciding with a series of contentious elections and ongoing conflicts. The accompanying damage in both directs, in terms of the economic and human costs, and indirects, in that it forces people to use unsafe VPNs to try to circumvent the restriction imposed upon them. In 2023, Sub-Saharan Africa witnessed a financial setback of $1.74 billion during 30,784 hours of internet downtime, affecting 84.8 million people. So far this year, the struggle is not any different. A recent index by Top 10 VPN measured the financial consequences of these internet shutdowns. Since the start of 2024, 30 countries have held national elections. In 10 of these, heightened internet censorship affecting over 2.27 billion people has been recorded. That is 90.8% of people that have had an election so far this year, or more than a quarter of the world's population. Large-scale internet shutdowns surrounding elections have cost an estimated $358.3 million to date. In Africa, Senegal, for instance, lost over $7.1 million due to internet restrictions during the postponement of their election. It would be a good time to look at the 5 African countries with the most expensive internet shutdown in 2024. Let's look at the chart, understanding in that regard. Well, while waiting for that, let's quickly talk about China. Looking at economic standings around the world, China's industrial output growth beats estimates. China's industrial production rose by 6.7% year-on-year in April 2024, more than market forecast of 5.5% and faster than a 4.5% increase in March. Activities in mining, manufacturing, and utilities all accelerated amid continued support measures from the government. Meantime, retail sales grew. It grew the least in 15 months as weak consumption persisted in China. Now to Malaysia, as first quarter GDP growth revised higher. Malaysia's economy grew 4.2% year-on-year in the first quarter of 2024 compared to initial and market estimates of 3.9%, and accelerating from a downwardly revised 2.9% rise in the previous 3-month period. It marked the fastest economic expansion in exactly a year, primarily attributed to positive contribution from almost all sectors, mainly led by the construction sector, followed by mining and quarrying and services. Moreover, output rebounded for manufacturing. Conversely, output slowed for agriculture. On a seasonally adjusted quarterly basis, the country's GDP rose 1.4% in the first quarter of 2024, reversing from a downwardly revised 1% fall in the previous 3-month period. Now, in Africa, looking at Tunisia's economy as it expands in the first quarter. Tunisia's economy expanded by 0.2% year-on-year in the first quarter of 2024, following an upwardly revised stagnation in the preceding 3-month period. Growth was recorded for agriculture, forestry and fishing, chemical industries, transportation and storage, and public administration and defense. Moreover, some industries contracted at a slower rate, such as extraction of mining products and petrol refinery. In contrast, further contraction was observed for extraction of petrol and natural gas, textile, clothing, and leather industry, as well as construction. On a quarterly basis, the GDP rose by 0.6% in the first quarter of 2024, following a 0.5% increase in the previous quarter. Up next would be the markets, but that will be when we return from this break. Don't go anywhere.